1, 2, 3. We on? Aaron, you gotta say something. Hello, do y'all hear us? Because Aaron ain't telling us. We on?
We are.
Okay. Welcome to the Single Mama Podcast. My name is Brandy. I am your host and advocate. Today, and y'all know I'm also known as the Gym City Mama. So today, I got my girl here, Shondale. Y'all see we color coordinated on accident.
Listen, on accident.
On accident.
Intentional.
So, right, great minds
Yes.
think alike, think alike.
Yes.
So I am happy to finally have you here because
Yeah.
I believe I asked you last March.
Yeah. It's been a while ago.
It's been a year since I
Yes.
asked you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how did we get here, ma'am?
Yeah.
What made you
Yes.
decide to say I'm ready?
Timing. When you originally asked me, I was in the middle of a huge
storm.
transition.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I was in the middle of a huge transition where I was just in this transition where I needed to be quiet. I was trying to figure things out. I wanted to. My plan was to move to Atlanta and go get me some farmland, and just go be on the land and just tap out. But God's plan was different. So that's how I'm
We're gonna have to touch on that.
Yeah.
So we're not moving to Atlanta?
It's still in my plans, but I had work to do here that I'm not going to say probably, I was trying to run from. Like, I didn't want to do it. So I was just
That's fair.
trying to do things my way.
And you recognize it.
Yeah. And it was out of season. It wasn't my season to move to Atlanta yet. Again, I was trying to escape a thing, but it wasn't the season. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, some of us know you or think we know you.
Yeah.
So let's dive into Miss Shondale here. Shondale, we're gonna go all the way back.
Yeah.
We're going back. So you originated from where, ma'am?
Dayton, Ohio, born and raised.
Born and raised.
Yeah.
Schools?
Yes. Yeah. So I was probably in every elementary school, honestly, because I was in foster care. I went into foster care at 1. Yeah. So unfortunately and fortunately, I was a product of like when crack addiction hit. You know, when crack hit our communities, and my mother was one of those ones who was addicted to crack at a very early age.
Is your mom an older mom or was she younger?
She was younger. She's 70 now. She's about to be
Okay.
70. But she had been addicted to crack since she was about 17. So all of her kids went in the system when they were born. You know what I mean? They would go into the system.
Wow. Do you know how many homes?
21 total.
Homes you were in?
21 total homes I was in. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I went in, like I said, at 1. Emancipated after I had my daughter. I was about 18, going on 19 when I finally emancipated. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were a teenage mom.
I was a teenage mom in foster care. Yeah. And
What was that like?
it was an experience because one of the things that I was pregnant by an older gentleman. He was 36. I was 17. Well, I was 16 when we got together.
20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so there was a lot going on at the time where, because I was in foster homes that was so broken and just a lot that was going on, it was like he was my savior. It was like he just, you know, he had money and he was in the streets, and I was in love with the streets.
Right.
And so it was funny because the relationship really, like I said, it kind of saved me in a lot of ways because it slowed me down. I remember I was skipping school one time, and he had just bought me a car, and I was going to Colonel White, and I was skipping school, and I'll never forget it. Me and my girlfriend, we over in the Manor, and literally like skipping school that day. Girl, we come outside, my car's gone. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't, my car, somebody stole my car in the manor. And it took everything in me to be like, okay, I got to call this man and tell him that my car was stolen. And when I called him, I'm like, I'm crying like, somebody stole my car. He like, what, they stole it from Colonel White? They stole it off the lot? I'm like, okay, wait a minute. No, not necessarily. Not necessarily from Colonel White. I'm like, I'm over here in the manor. I came over here, to, you know what I'm saying, on lunch break. He like, oh, okay, well, you know what? Go back to school, and I'll come pick you up after school. And I'm like, go back to school.
Right.
So we get a ride. We get back to the school, me and Key, and girl, when he comes to get me, he was like, wow. He was like, how many days have you, you know what I'm saying, have you missed in school? So he had like all this information about me not going to school. And he was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, according to this, you ain't been to school and you're failing in this class.
Oh, so he started checking behind you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And he was like, when you start back going to school and getting your grades together, I'll give you your car back. So he had come and repo the car.
Oh, wow.
I was like,
oh, wow.
darn. Yeah.
So that was your first child.
That was my first daughter. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And now, so was he active?
No, not so much because he had other things going on, and one of the problems was because my caseworker and them knew that I was dealing with the older man, so they were wanting to prosecute. You know what I mean? They were wanting to do some things to try to keep him from being away from me. And my foster mother was like, you know, she knew what was going on. So I had to lie and be like, nah, I'm not dealing with him. It's not him, and so on and so forth. So it was just a lot. It was a lot. And he was active in ways as far as like financially, but not really just, it was
Like
just
hands-on.
Yeah, hands-on.
Just, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. How's your daughter's relationship with him? Do they have one?
No.
Never had one?
No. 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 When his parents were alive, they would have my daughter all the time. So she was very close. Yeah, she was very close with her grandparents. And
Okay, so you did have an,
you know what I mean?
she did have
Yeah.
another side.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's rare too.
Yeah. And it was
With
like,
the age gap.
Exactly. So it was really a blessing. You know, I tell people it was a blessing at that time for me because it made me grow up, and it gave me a sense of security that I did not have growing up.
You were 18.
I was 18, yeah.
And then the second one came
When I was 20. I was like 20,
Ooh,
21
you
when I
was
had my
young,
second one.
too.
Yeah, so they were 5 years apart. I had my oldest one at 17, and then my youngest one when I was like 21.
Okay.
My second.
So how did life go now? Now we got two. Now we
Yeah.
starting our 20s. How was
Yeah.
that? What did that look like?
Ooh, I decided I wanted to go back to school because I was never a school person for real. Like I would be in school, but I wouldn't be in school.
It
Technically,
sounds like you had a lot going on.
I had a lot going on when I was, you know what I mean? I started my paper route when I was like 8 years old. So when I say I was a street kid, I was really like a street kid. I ran my paper route all night from like 12 midnight to like 6 in the morning. I would go get my little sister dressed. We would get dressed, walk to Walgman. You know what I mean? So, because there was periods of time when we would go back and forth with our mother. She would get clean, she would relapse, and then she would call the caseworker like, come and get my kids. You know, I'm not doing well. And so, you know, that's why it was 21 different foster homes, was because we had so many reunifications in there with my mother. And then it was just like me and my little sister. So even though it was 5 of us, it was always me and my little sister together. So when I started running my paper out, it was like, I just got to make sure my little sister is good, like she eating, you know what I mean?
Wow. How old was how many years apart is your sister?
3. She's 3 years apart.
Somebody's in line for me. Can you guys hear me? Because some people, let's make sure they can hear. Okay, yes. They can hear me.
Yeah.
Wow. So you, okay, 2 kids later, where's your little sister?
My little sister lives in Dayton.
No, where was she once
when
you
I-
started
okay.
having children?
She was in a foster home, so that was the first time that my little sister and I had to separate. We were in a foster home together when I got pregnant, and it was only one home that was actually keeping teen moms and babies at the time.
Okay.
Her name is Miss Constance Lucas, and she had a teenage moms program, and she allowed me. It was in Trotwood, and they allowed me to go into that program with Taria. Yeah.
And how long were you with her?
For about a year. Yeah, for about a year, and then that was the last home I was in before I emancipated. Yeah.
So you were only with her for a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you went on your own.
Yeah. I got my first apartment. And it was interesting because, like, my one foster mother, when I had Taria, she wanted Taria. So she was, she claimed to say that she was switching her focus from teenagers to like wanting infants and toddlers. So my caseworker, when she came into the room when I had gave birth to Taria, she was like, well, we're looking at possibly putting you in another foster home, and Taria can stay with your current foster mother. And I was like, that's not gonna work for me. And
so they were trying to separate you two.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was like the first time I learned how to advocate, like how to advocate for myself, because up until that point, I had become pretty mute. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can kind of do whatever you want to do. But that was the first time I'm like, no, that's not going to work for me.
So was this the same house you got pregnant under?
Yep. Yep.
So what did she have to say about that part? I mean, they can't control it either, though.
They can't. You know what I mean? And it was God's will that I I think that was just God's introduction for me as to like me coming into myself and finding myself was really through me giving birth to my daughter, and knowing that, there was days that I understood that my mother could not advocate for her kids. You know what I mean? In her situation, in her addiction.
Right.
And, I didn't have no excuse. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not my mother, so I have to stand up for my daughter and make sure that she understands that I'm gonna always speak to her best interests.
Wow. 2 kids. 22, 21, 2 kids. Yep. What's happening now?
So
how's life going right now?
And this was back when like the gangster courts was still like the gangster courts. And so again, me and my kid's father, after I had my second daughter, I knew I didn't want no more kids. I didn't want no more, honestly, after the first one. So if I could have got my tube ligation, if I could have got my tubes done after that first one, it would have been done, because I knew I didn't want no more kids. And so after I had my second daughter, I went and had a tube ligation done. And I was like, I'm done. I don't want no more kids. And he and I separated when our daughter was like 6 months. When Derry was 6 months, he and I separated, went our own separate ways. And when Dariana was about 1, I ended up meeting a guy, and he and I became really good friends, and we ended up getting together when Dariana was about 1 year old, Torrance. And he was a DJ at Napoleon's, and that was my dude. Like, me and T-Bone, if you see, like, we was just so cool. And so, but it was funny because when I met T-Bone, he always talked about wanting to have a daughter. He had 2 sons, and I loved his boys.
Is there an age difference?
Yep. So T-Bone was like 40, and I'm like 22.
Oh, so you just was into
I love old men.
You was just what they call fast.
I loved old men.
That's what they called us back then.
Yes, say that. Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And it was funny because guys our age didn't hit on me. Like in school, like we was all just cool. Like we was, you know what I'm saying? I was a ball player.
And that's what I was gonna ask you. I said that I vaguely remember you playing ball.
Yeah.
So how'd you go from, because most athletes are focused on the sport, but you had so much going on.
I had so much going on.
I could probably answer my own question.
Yeah.
You had so much going on.
And basketball
so
was
hard
my
to
thing.
focus.
Oh my gosh. Like,
on
I
that.
loved basketball. And it was the thing that was the most consistent for me growing up. Like, I started playing basketball when I was like 6 years old. And I was the type that it was an escape, because people really didn't know what I had going on. And like, a lot of people didn't know, like my coaches and stuff, like, I played with the Mohawks, and they knew that I was in foster care. But a lot of the people that I played with didn't know that I was in foster care.
So you kept that to yourself?
I kept it to myself. You know what I mean?
Were you embarrassed?
I was very much embarrassed. It was like I was being molested in homes, you know what I mean? And it was like, I can't tell nobody that, you know what I mean? So I would literally go to all the courts, because that's really like where I was being fed, that's where I could eat at. You know what I'm saying? Me and my little sister, we could always go there and eat. It was always people like at Princeton Park, at Westwood. It was a lot of the coaches and stuff just really looked out for us. You know what I mean? But they had no idea what I was going through at home.
You didn't have anybody that you felt you could confide in?
Yeah. I told my mother, and my mother kind of knew when I was about 8 years old, because a lot about my personality, because I was always like a really like active kid, bubbly, just like I said, I'm always outside playing. But something about me changed, I believe, like when I was about 8, 9 years old. And my mother, I remember we was at a visitation and her telling my caseworker that she knew that something, and my mother asked me flat out, like, is somebody doing, what is going on? Is somebody doing something to you? And I'll never forget, like, the fear I felt with even telling my mom, like, yeah, I was being molested in this house. And because this house was like, we were in like a house that was very religious. Like we were in church like 5 days a week in this house. So, and then there was other kids in the house. That was the only house where me and all my siblings were in at one point. So I was so afraid.
They took in all of you?
Yeah, they took in all of us.
How many siblings do you have?
It's 5 of us. My mother had 5 kids.
You the oldest?
No, I'm the second to the youngest.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So I have 3 older siblings, and then it's me and then my little sister.
How's your relationship?
Oh, man, it's not good.
With your siblings?
I mean, you know what I mean? Like we have these moments where we try to connect, but it just doesn't. I think, you know, the one thing that I can say about this system is that it taught us how to be apart.
That's what I was going to say. It's probably not even, it's not y'all fault.
Yeah, it just taught us, it really taught us how to like not need each other.
The division.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember when my mother told my caseworker about what was going on with me, and my caseworker knew I was telling the truth, but she said I lied and I made it up. And that was the first time that I was separated from all my siblings. I mean, and it was like...
Because you told.
Yeah, yeah. And he
so
said
they
that
kept
I was lying.
them, and you were relocated. Wow, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And they were a religious family.
Yeah.
Hiding.
Yeah.
Did the wife? Do you think that the wife had any idea?
Yes. That was one of the things that I realized, though, about being in a lot of the homes that I was in, was that, you know, and I tell people today, it's so important for these conversations to happen because, like, to me, foster care is the biggest human trafficking system in the nation. You know, these are kids who are born into a system that devalues them right off the bat. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have any value, so who cares, really? And so...
Do you feel like any of them cared?
I feel like I was in a couple of homes that was like, you know, Shelby Leonard, you know, Miss Lucas. I believe, you know, when I got older, I was able to come into homes that were really, that did care, and that I still have a great relationship with today. You know what I mean? And I thank God for that, because like before them, it was like nobody cared. You know what I mean?
That's heartbreaking, especially so young.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I think about that, like even when they removed me from that home, like they put me in the worst possible home that they could put me in. And the things that I went through in that home, it was so intentional for them. Like it was like punishment.
So you had a terrible caseworker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Wow. Let me get myself together, because life is just so real sometimes. And
Yeah.
you hear other people's story, and you think your situation is bad, and then you hear other people's stories, and it's like, thank you, Lord.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the one thing that I thank God for about my mother. Like my mother prayed all the time. You know what I mean? And my mother's heart was so like, You know, she would take us to church, but she taught us about she taught me about spirituality. You know what I mean?
Because it's a difference between going to church and being spiritual.
It really is.
Major difference.
Very different. And that's the one thing my mother taught me was how to pray. And she was the type that was like, I don't care what you're going through, don't treat people bad. You know, when we was living in the shelter, my mother, like, if you got a granola bar, the kid next to you got half of it. You know what I mean? So she taught me very early how to give.
Really?
Yeah.
So she gave you a great foundation in some sense.
She did. She did. And I think that's the thing that maybe she doesn't even realize, you know what I mean, is that.
Do you remind her of it, though?
I do. And, you know, she still deals with drug addiction, so that's very hard.
Oh, yeah.
You know
She's still fighting.
She's still fighting, and she still has a lot of guilt about, you know, the things about her kids being in foster care, and I understand that. But I'm like, Mommy, you got to forgive yourself.
Because you can't move forward until you do.
Yeah, you got to forgive yourself, and I don't want her to. You know, that's one reason why I'm doing this docuseries for real, is because I don't want her to leave this earth and not know the impact that she had, if nothing else on me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
So there was something you said you wanted to share. So we have 2 kids now. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. How did we get to the 3rd?
So like I said, when Torrance and I met, he kept talking about this little girl that he wanted to have. And I was like, hey, you're going to have to find somebody else, because, I mean, he knew I had a tubal ligation. And I had the type of tubal ligation that I did not want reversed. Like, I don't want no burnt, like, I want you to burn them, clamp them, do whatever you need to do, because I don't want them reversed. And so it was funny because he kept talking about this girl named, and his middle name was LaBroyer. So he kept talking about LaBroyer. He would always, and I'm like, you are okay to go find you a woman who can have a baby. You know what I mean? And I'll never forget when I got pregnant. I got pregnant in 2002. Like I said, I had the tubal ligation in 2000. And even my kid's father was like, you ain't no way you pregnant, because he the one who took me to the appointment to get the, you know what I mean? He was there with my tubal ligation. He like, you ain't pregnant, girl. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And I remember the day that I went to Good Samaritan Hospital, and I had been throwing up and everything. And I remember T-Bone kept saying, you pregnant? And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, stop. And so when I go to the hospital, they do the blood work, they do the urine test and the blood work. They're like, you're pregnant. And, but their fear was that I was ectopic. You know what I mean?
That's the first thing that came to my head.
Yeah. So they was like, we need to rush you down, get a ultrasound. And I was like, you know, so I called T-Bone. He came out there to the hospital. When they did the ultrasound, it's not in my tubes. They're like, nope, you know, you're pregnant, you know what I mean? And I'm like, nope, I can't be, you know what I mean? And so I remember I was wanting to, all of this happened like this day where I had already decided, like, I'm going to go get an abortion. I don't want no more kids. I told you I didn't want no kids. He like, please don't kill my daughter. And it was amazing because it was like he already knew that it was a girl. He already, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, I'm sorry, but I can't do this. And I remember he called his mother, and we're on the phone, and she like, Nikki, please don't do this. Like, please don't go abort the baby, so on and so forth, whatever. And I was like, no, I can't. And he and I had a great relationship, but I was like, I just didn't want no more kids. And so somewhere along the lines, I decided that I was not going to have the abortion. I was going to go ahead and carry the child, and I did. And it was crazy because, you know, like when I was pregnant with Tari and Derry, it was like all this, like, I named it, like I'm doodling names. I'm like, oh, and I already know it's a girl. I already had dreams about these babies. I'm like, you know, I'm carrying, you know what I'm saying? But when I was pregnant with Shay, I just didn't feel anything. I didn't feel anything. It was almost like I couldn't even remember the pregnancy part, other than the fact that I was sick through the whole pregnancy. I had, I vomited the whole pregnancy. I had hyperemesis.
I had it too.
I had hyperemesis. I'm
Girl,
working at the
that's
hospital,
terrible.
girl. I'm talking about, honey. They got a
terrible.
Zofran pump on me, honey.
That was awful.
It was the worst experience ever, and that's the only thing I can remember about that pregnancy was like I just could not stop throwing up, and so, but the whole time I'm talking about when I say he is totally excited, like he literally went out. He bought car seats, cribs, when I say he did everything, and even when she was born, everybody was like, it's T-Bone's baby. He would have her at Napoleon's. They would be everywhere. Girl, he had this little pouch thing on him. Girl, we'd go to the bathroom, she would cry. Like, it was his baby. And it was like I was just a vessel, because I promise you, it was nothing like my other two kids. And so when he and I separated, he was like, can I take my daughter with me? And I was like, yeah, she's yours. And it was interesting because his sister, they lived in Jefferson Township, and his sister, she had just had a hysterectomy. I'm talking about just had it. Shabrier was like, which is my daughter's name, Shay Shay. Shay Shay might have been about 1 year old when her aunt had this hysterectomy.
Okay.
And I'll never forget that Torrance, T-Bone, and her would go up there to the house up in Jefferson Township and take care of his sister. And so T-Bone passed away when Shay was like 2. Yeah, he ended up passing away. And
was he sick? Was it
he had
sudden?
hypertension, but he went to work on third shift one night and passed away at work in the bathroom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And so Shay Shay is like 2 years old, and I'll never forget, like, before the funeral, his family had asked me to come up and speak with them, to come and sit down with them up in Jefferson Township. And I went over and I talked with them. And they were, his sister, she don't have any kids, and she had this hysterectomy, and she was like, Nikki, Shay Shay and Torrance have been up here. They really helped me through the situation. And she was like, I would like to know if I can adopt Shay Shay. And I was like, she was like, her mother, her father, his son, we all was sitting around talking. And his mother was like, she's all we have left, you know what I'm saying? Like, besides his other,
Right.
She was like, this is what we have of him, you know what I mean? And so I agreed to it. I was like, yeah. And it's funny how, if you look at Shay Shay, Shay Shay is identical to his sister. It looks like she had her. And that's been the relationship. It's like, she's her daughter.
So how does Shay Shay feel about the situation?
And that was the beautiful thing about it, was because, like, we get Shay Shay too. Like, every birthday, you know what I'm saying? And, you know what I mean? Like, she's like a shared baby, you know what I mean? And so, and me and Shay Shay done had many conversations where it was never about your mother not being able to take care of you or not loving you. I literally just felt like God allowed me to be a vessel just for you to be here for this family. And I believe that Shay Shay was able to have an experience that even my oldest two kids did. You know what I mean? Like, she was able to be raised in a house with her grandparents, because her aunt and her grandmother and grandfather, they all stayed in the same home. So she was able to be raised with her grandparents, and she has a very tight-knit family.
Right.
Yeah, she has a very tight-knit family.
Right.
I thank God every day for the Hicks, and that, I was able to serve as that vessel for them.
How old is she?
She's 20. Yeah.
Wow. And y'all have a good relationship.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, like, she just had a birthday, and like, Janelle does her hair for me, and it's just, you know what I mean? I believe that was what God's will was, you know what I mean?
How did you feel, because this is Dayton, Ohio, how did you feel when people viewed you?
One thing about it
or
is...
Or was it could have been viewed different, though.
Yeah.
Did you get the backlash? You didn't? Good.
I didn't. I've never heard anything negative about that situation at all. And that's another reason why I'm so grateful, was because, for me, because Shay Shay's always been in our life, you know what I'm saying? Like, she spent Christmases with us, Thanksgiving, you know what I'm saying? Like, we've gone up there to their house and spent Christmases, or, you know what I mean? Even now, like, I go up there and, you know what I mean, she come to my house. So, it's never been anything said to me negatively about it.
Are your girls close?
They are. They are.
Okay.
Yeah,
First,
they are.
All three of them?
Yeah, all three of them.
Well, that's good. Well,
yeah.
That sounds like you were their blessing.
I believe so in my heart, and that's why I can really, like,
Speak about it
speak
freely.
about it freely.
It doesn't weigh.
It doesn't, and there's no regret in my heart about it. Like, even when the doctor was like, well, it's a miracle, and I was like, this ain't no miracle, you messed up somewhere, because where's the clamps? Because technically I had 2 metal clamps that they was, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, where's the clamps at? So they ended up covering the cost of me delivering and all that, the hospital
Because they
bills,
messed up.
because of that. I couldn't sue because it was like 99.1%, like that 99.9. So that's what keeps you from being able to sue, technically. But they did cover all the hospital expenses and stuff in the birth.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this was at Good Sam.
Yeah, it was that Good Sam. Yeah.
Good Sam is gone.
Yeah.
Maybe that's one of the reasons Good Sam is gone. Maybe they making mistakes we didn't know nothing about.
Yeah. So I was like, hey, you know, it worked out.
So 3 kids later, how old were you?
25.
How do we dive into the mustard seed?
Yeah.
Because that was your next birth.
It was. That was my next birth. It really was.
How did we get there?
So in about 2005, and again, this was something that when I came out of foster care, I remember my caseworker telling me to go volunteer. She wanted me to go volunteer at this place, at this home. It was called Lutheran Social Services had a home, and it was called the Greenleaf House.
Okay.
And it was a new teenage moms program.
Is that the one that's now referred to as the Green?
No,
This is something different?
Something totally different. They ended up closing the Greenleaf House. But I remember my caseworker like, I just want you to go volunteer. I just want you to maybe, you know, you were able to, you know, move out with your daughter, be successful, so on and so forth. And she wanted me to go back and work with these girls. When I went to the house, to the Greenleaf House, it was like I was at home. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved being around the other teenagers. And I was just like 19 at the time. And so I did that for a little bit. And I remember God planting that seed in me and telling me I was going to have a teenage mom's home. And I was like, like, you know what I mean? Like, no, not me. And so fast forward, I had been working in the medical field at like a Mary Joseph, Miami Valley Hospital, 2007.
That's how you provided for the girls?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. And so about 2007, I was working at the Saney's building there at Kindred Hospital, Dayton, and I was working at Dayton Rehab. Okay. And I started telling people, like, I'm supposed to be starting this teenage mom's home, and I'll never forget, it was a lady named Miss Renee. She worked as like the admin assistant, and me and her would talk about spiritual stuff. Like, we would talk about the Bible on our breaks. We would just talk about what scripture did you read today. And so I started sharing with her like all these things that I wanted to do as far as opening up this teenage mom's home. And that's pretty much where it started, like, to become real for me in 2007. And so I just started running around. I was volunteering at places. I was talking to all these different people, Elaine Bonner and, you know, Dayton Right to Life. It was like all these organizations that I was going to and telling them that I wanted to start this teenage mom's home. And I started to put together this board of director. I didn't have a clue what I was doing.
But you did it.
But you know what I mean? And people were just coming in, like the Mama Darias, and, you know, they were just coming in and helping me, Katie Crosby and them. And so it came to life. It was effortless, really. You know what I mean? When I started.
Do you classify yourself as a group home?
I do. So I'm technically what they consider a residential parenting facility. And so I fall up under that residential, like a center care because of the numbers. And then I'm pretty much separated from like what they consider group homes because of my population. Yeah.
How many do you have?
So we can house 7 girls. So that's how many we have.
Now.
And they can have up to 2 kids.
You still have it now?
Yep. So 16 years in. My first location was up at Precious Blood. We call it the Big Yellow House. Yeah.
Right,
and I remember
Salem,
it was,
on the corner.
Dillinger and Salem. And it was tough because I remember I was running around for like 2 years trying to find a building, like trying to find a home. I'm talking to everybody.
How was it working with them?
It was amazing. You know what I mean? And the thing about it was, though, Brandy, what made it so interesting was that I would have never went to the Catholic Church. I was going to like all the pastors in the church, and I was going to the Ministerial Alliance meetings. I was telling everybody like, hey, y'all got a house just sitting, can I just use it for teenage moms? And a lot of them was like, well, yeah, if you put it up under our 501c3, up under the church. And I was like, that ain't what God showed me. Like, it's not going to be your 501c3, it's going to be mine.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so It was funny because this is like after 2 years, I'm running around. I'm so discouraged at this point. Like I don't have no money. I don't have no credit. I don't have no, you know what I mean? Like what people know of me is just Nikki working in the hospital. You know what I mean? And so I'll never forget. I get a phone call from Sister Florence, and she like 8:30 in the morning. She like, hey, somebody was just in a meeting, and said that you were looking for a home. She was like, I think we have something for you.
Wow. And how long had you been on the journey at that
About
point?
2.5 years. Yep. About two and
So
a
it
half
took
years.
you 2.5 years to
Yep.
land.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah.
So it came to pass what year?
2009 is when I
When you
moved
finally
into that house, and I got licensed like the end of 2009. We took our first residential client, January 2010.
When you were on the Jodie Comer show, then that's
I
when you
was.
first. I was there.
Were you there?
I was there, big and pregnant.
Oh wow!
I sure was there.
Yeah.
At the
Therapy
at
Cafe.
the no,
Was it?
It was at what was Meech's first club? The A-List.
A-List. Wow.
It was at the A-List.
That is amazing because I forgot all about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nope, I saw you. I've seen you before though. When you used to come to church with Miss Lucas.
Wow.
Shiloh.
Shiloh.
I'm a Shiloh baby.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
that is
Yes, ma'am.
amazing.
So, yeah.
Look at
I've
God.
known you for a while. I've known of you.
And that's
you
so
know.
funny. I talked to Miss Lucas about a week ago, and she said, you know what I always love most about you, Shondale? She said, I always knew you was going to make it, but she was like, what I love most about you was that I never had to fight you to go to church. She was like, honey, you
all
were the first
y'all
one
used to be rolling up in
Listen,
there.
all of us used to be rolling up in there. She
All
said,
of y'all
baby, you used to
be
jump up and you used to
rolling
be
up
ready.
in there, rolling
And I'm
up
like,
in
yes,
that church. Yes,
I love church.
I've witnessed that. So
Yes.
yes. Yes.
Wow, that is amazing. I never
I
knew
grew
that.
up in that
Brandy.
church. Yes,
Look at
ma'am.
God.
The Parkers is still my prayer warriors. Yes, I
Yeah.
shouldn't tell nobody that, but yeah.
Amen.
They're my people.
Okay.
Them is my people. Okay, fast
Listen.
forward.
Yes.
So now we got the mustard seed. I do want to touch on your health. When were you diagnosed, and what symptoms did you have? How did you know? How did that? Let's talk about that.
So I was working, like I said, I was working in Dayton Rehab, and I was on the floor working at Kindred also. So when I worked at Kindred, we had ventilator patients. And so I started catching pneumonia, and they were saying that it was ventilator pneumonia. And I'm talking about every month or so, every couple of months, I'm in the hospital with pneumonia. And it was funny because I remember the doctor actually admitted me onto the floor there at Kindred where I was working at.
Really?
Yes. And so I remember the day I was about to get out the hospital, they had done some blood work. They was about to discharge me. And my doctor was like, I can't discharge you today. He was like, you know, your white blood counts are really high. He was like, so your infection is not going down.
Right.
He was like, and something else was going on with like your ANA. And I remember, but even before that, Marquetta kept telling me like, Shondale, something else is going on with you. It's not just asthma. It's not just, you know, pneumonia.
And how old were you?
Girl, I don't know. I was in my 30s. We're in my like 46 now. So I was finally diagnosed. I finally accepted the diagnosis in 2015. I had been having a lot of pain, like
Almost
all my
10
major
years.
joints.
Almost 10 years.
Yep. All my major joints were swelling. My hands would be swollen. My feet, my ankles would be swollen. I would be in so much pain. It was horrible. And so, yeah, I finally accepted the diagnosis in 2015 of lupus.
How's your care? You had a rheumatologist.
I have a rheumatologist. I do, and then Marquetta Colbert. So Marquetta is really like my go-to person. I've been with Marquetta now since like 2010. So I see her more than anyone as far as my care.
And is she an NP?
No, she's an NP.
She's
she
an
just
NP.
she just got her doctorate's degree. But yeah, she's NP, and she is so wonderful with my care. Like even. Like, because the Mustard Seed Foundation was in Trotwood around the corner from her. So I would literally, like, when I would start having breathing problems, I would text her, like, I can't breathe. And she'd, like, come around here to the office, and she would try to get my breathing together. And she'd be like, nope, Shondale, you got to go to the hospital. And I'd be like, please, no. Like, but she's been so gentle with me in her care and approach.
So you want to hurt babies,
Yeah,
pretty much.
yeah. And then I was like, I just got tired of being on that hamster wheel because with the medication I was on, I started experiencing kidney failure. Yeah, and it was interesting because I remember them telling me that I was, like the medication causes kidney failure, it causes eyesight.
What was it?
Plaquenil. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so I was like, I'm done. I'm about to start looking at alternative medicine, and that's what led me to medical marijuana. I started going out to California like every week.
So this is how you got to the wellness lady.
Yeah, yes, yes.
So the marijuana helps you with
Everything.
the pain.
The pain, the nausea that I go through, the inflammation, the mental part of it, like, because that's one of the things was I was in pain all the time. I was
So
dealing
she
with
ain't just a
depression.
weed head.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I had to say that because people think that.
Yeah, and that was one of the things, like, even before that, I was one of those ones that really did believe that marijuana, weed was the gateway drug. Because there was so many people in my family that was addicted to crack that I was like, it got to be the gateway. Like, you had to be doing weed first. Like, so that was in my mind. And so I was never one of those people that was like, okay, I'm just going to be getting high and all that. Like, so when I started going out to California, my friend was like, Shondale, you're always in the hospital. Like, why don't you just try weed? Like, and so he literally gave me like a box of like brownies and Rice Krispie treats, cookies, and I just started noticing that I was feeling better. I could be more, I was just feeling better. So I started talking to my doctor about it. And at this time, medical marijuana was not in Ohio at all. So like I said, I was doing this in California and was going back and forth to Cali.
Because it's been in Ohio only, what?
Since 2019.
I was going to say like 3 years.
Yeah, yes.
So it helps tremendously.
Tremendously. To the point where I was like, okay, if I'm feeling like this and I'm having this quality of life, I'm starting to get my quality of life back. This is like 2017 and 19,
the same
18.
way.
Yeah, it was like it's got to be something to this. You know what I mean? And so when I heard that medical marijuana was coming to Ohio, I started looking at it like, okay, how do I come into this as a business?
Right.
I don't want to just be a consumer of this. And so that's what I started doing. I started researching, what do I need to do to become a medical marijuana provider? And I linked up with a young lady. They was out of Columbus, and I remember when they was like, "Well, yeah, you want to open up a clinic in Ohio? Like, we'll help you," because they had a clinic in Columbus, and she was like, "You want to open up something in Dayton? We'll help you get started." They opened up the clinic for me. They brought the doctor down, and then they let me take it from there. Like, okay, now you want to transition it to be in your clinic? Great, take it. And I was able to have 2 doctors come on with me, and we've been open ever since.
And what year did you open?
2019, I opened in Oregon District.
You still there?
Yeah. Well, we just moved. December was our last month, and December 2023 was our last month in Oregon District, and we moved around to West Monument.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did your name come from?
Serendipity. You know what? I remember one day me and my cousin talking in LaDon, and she was like, because I actually established this business as a mental health organization in 2014. So if you look up Serendipity, you'll see that I was actually had my LLC for Serendipity in 2014. I never done nothing. I never did nothing with it. So it had just been sitting dormant, like, you know what I mean? And so, but it was pretty much the way she was explaining it to me was like how something good can happen over and over and over again. And she was like, Shondale, like, she was like, Nikki, you're Serendipity. And I just ended up taking the name and doing paperwork on it. And so that's the way I believe, like, serendipity, like, every day I get to see clients and good things happen over and over again. I get to see their quality of life.
So you are most of your clients health clients?
All of them are health clients.
All of them are health clients.
Yeah. They have to have a medical diagnosis. All of my clients that come to me, because the state of Ohio has said it was like 25 different diagnoses that a patient can have to qualify for medical marijuana. So everybody that comes to me has to have a diagnosis. But I treat babies, babies with cancer, autoimmune, any type of pain, cancer, and epilepsy.
Oh, epilepsy.
Yeah, epilepsy, Alzheimer's. So I have a lot of Alzheimer's patients too.
Really?
Yeah.
When you go out into the public, do you market that, or how do you do your education piece?
So one of the things that we do is we've even partnered up with places like Gym City Market and hosted wellness events there.
Okay.
So like I've had Alzheimer's and medical marijuana where we talk about, you know, how does it help patients with that. I've had autism and marijuana and how it helps. You know what I mean? Cancer and marijuana. So we do these different wellness, educational wellness pieces out in the community. Like last year I did one where it was for men. It was talking about the quality of health for men and how medical marijuana helped them with like mental health and other things, prostate cancer, things like that they go through.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
People need to be educated because they
Yeah.
do box it, and it's a stereotype. They
It
just want to
is.
get, you know. So I think the
Yeah.
education piece is very, very important.
Yeah.
So it can be viewed different. People can open up their eyes. Open up
I
their
love it.
mental.
Yeah, I love it because it brings, to me, it's a whole diversity in it. Like it does not have a face. Illness doesn't have a face to it. You know what I mean? Mental health doesn't have a face.
Not at
Autism
all.
doesn't have a face. So it's like I get to have this whole, you know, relationship with all these different people, and we all just seeking the same thing, quality of life. You know,
Have you connected with the Cleveland Clinic anyway?
I have not.
Because I know they have, because I researched it myself
Yeah.
on the marijuana.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're looking for people to educate others.
Okay.
Yeah, like you can get
Yeah.
a certification to some degree
Yeah. Yeah.
on the medical marijuana.
Yeah.
I had researched it for myself because it was another nurse that was trying to get me to come aboard, and she was like, "You can sell it," and I was like, "Nah, let me do my little research
Yeah.
first." But I don't do it, so
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know how to really sell
Yeah.
it. You know, I
Right.
feel like you got to be passionate and involved in it. But yeah,
And that's one of the things
It's-
I thank God for, is because I feel like every single thing that I've gone through has led me to a purposeful assignment.
yeah, it's a journey.
Yeah, it's a journey.
The
like,
wellness lady
yeah,
is a journey.
Yes, yeah, and that's really what it is. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's a journey.
like, how did you get here? Trauma. You know what I'm saying? Like all these things led up to like me being able to serve. You know.
You've had a lot of trauma. How have you truly dealt with it?
By
Truly.
serving, by serving, and
Serving others.
by serving others, by serving others, and by being connected to the true vine. And I believe in my heart that even as a kid, like I tell people, I was locked in basements, like, and I know I was in the pit, and I know when God showed up. Like I can remember hearing the voice of God at a very young age.
Amen.
And I knew that it was him. And so every time I'm in a pit, I cry out to God. I do. Like, man, and I know, like, I mean, it's almost like being in a fiery furnace. Like, even when I started Mustard Seed, I went through hell with the county. I went through pure hell from 2011 to now. And I'm still, like,
With the county?
yes.
Backlash?
Yes.
On
it-
what?
it's amazing how we can talk all day about wanting to see lives change, but
They don't care.
being like lives being changed does not feed the system. It doesn't feed the financial piece of the system.
I was gonna say, honey,
Yeah,
if it ain't
it's a
money,
whole money-
It's,
yeah.
it's all about the money.
Yes,
Everything at the
yeah.
end, every single thing at the end of
Everything.
the day.
So imagine me being able to really change lives generationally when now you can't have this baby. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, well, whoa, wait a minute. Like, we knew you was going to get the girls, but we didn't know you was going to do so great. You know what I mean? So it's been a constant struggle, you know?
I could just imagine.
Yeah, it's been a constant struggle. And now we've gotten so far away from, like, generationally, we are babies having babies of babies. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's been tough.
How many? So all of them in your home are teenage moms.
In foster care.
Are they only allowed to have one child?
They can
Or
have up to two.
They can have up to two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my licensure allows them to have up to 2 kids.
You ever had one with two?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
As
Yes.
a teenager?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Quite a bit. Yeah, quite a bit. I've had girls who've had a baby at 12 and then had a second one by 15.
Whew.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, my first girl that I got that moved into the Mustard Seed, January 2010, had 2 kids. She moved in with 2 kids.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your relationship with any of them once they leave? Do they stay? Some of them stay in touch. Some of them don't.
Yes, yeah.
Some
No,
of them
you know what I mean?
mad.
It's like Mama Shondale, and it's been some that I was like, hey, this is tough love. Like, you know what I'm saying? I owe you that. And so be mad. I don't care.
Right.
And it's like when they move out the river, they hate Miss Shondale. But literally, it's funny. Like, they'll inbox me now and be like, Miss Shondale, I'm trying to get this job. Or Miss Shondale, I need
Right.
help
I need
with
a
this.
reference.
I need this. I need help.
need
Like, tell me what to
guidance.
do. And so, you know, I
You
tell
try
them,
to keep that open line.
I do.
That's important.
I do. I love all my girls, and it's like, because they all made me grow up in a different way. They all challenged me to grow up and to see them, you know what I mean, in a different way. You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking about tough cases. Ooh, real tough. And it made me woman up.
You have to be a strong party to even do that. I
Yeah.
did foster care for a while, and I had teenagers. And I probably could have did it. I was still being me at that time. So I was like, I ain't got time for this. Y'all tripping. Like, y'all
can't punish them. You be like, can't say that to them. Like,
this ain't that.
Yes.
And, but I did have one that had a baby. When she came to me, she was pregnant. And she was pregnant by a 27-year-old man. And it's funny because I see her now. The other two I don't see. One, I was her first house. And she ended up going away to the Air Force. Her mother just decided at 17 she didn't want her. So she was like tripping. But the other two, they have been into multiple homes.
Wow.
But she ended up having a baby with an older man. So I endured that situation for a while. But I was like, I ain't got time for y'all. Like, I was...
It's a tough.
I was being smoked, y'all. I was doing me at that time. But it's... You have to have a heart for it.
And I tell people, like, even when people will come to me, like, I want to open a group home, I want to, you know what I'm saying, I need to make some money, and I'm like, I ain't the one for you to come to. Because it's different when you've lived it. You know what I mean?
I could just, how has that been? I'm sure you done had 35 people at your door.
1,000. Like, I mean, and again, it was almost like this was the new wave of like, I don't want to work, I'm just going to go get some kids. You know what I mean?
To me, that's what it is.
It is. It is.
For some.
For some. For most.
Some.
You know what I mean? And
I won't say all, but
yeah,
for some.
but for some. And it's really,
a money maker.
It's a money maker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't do it. I had all the paperwork. I still got all the paperwork.
Yeah.
Got my name pulled and everything through the system. Got a caseworker, and I was like,
yeah.
nah.
Yeah. Self-awareness
This ain't-
is key.
This ain't what you supposed to do for no money.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you
Yeah.
have to treat these kids like they your kids.
Like they your kids.
And I got
Yeah.
my own kids.
Say that.
I don't
Yeah.
want no more kids.
Yeah.
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 So you do have to have a heart for it. Let's talk about this new journey.
Yes.
Hold on. Let me tap you on this. I'm going to make you laugh real quick. You got this new man that's making you smile. So that's who you was skipping town with. But anyway, we're going to talk about the new journey.
Yes.
The docu-series. And go into that real quick.
Yeah. So beyond the system.
So this is what we can look for the future.
Yes.
Shondale.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, go
And
ahead.
it's been a long time coming because like Shondale has tried to write a book. And it was like, nope, I didn't release it. I was doing a movie.
Did you complete it?
It was completed.
Okay.
Didn't
as you
release
completed it. But go
Yeah.
ahead.
And I've always been one of those ones that I didn't want to hurt my mother. I didn't want to hurt other people that was a part of this journey.
That's the worst part, ain't it? You can't
Yeah.
tell your story because telling your story involves
Yes. Yeah.
hurt to others.
Hurt
But it's
to
like,
others.
what do you do?
And this time, even though I've dealt with some of the same backlash, I just allowed it to be what it is. Like, you don't own the right to my pain and how I heal. Like, you don't get to decide that I have to carry this pain for the rest of my life just for you to be okay. You know what I mean?
So
like
you owning it and moving forward.
I'm owning it and I'm moving forward, and the goal is that I help other people own, you know what I'm saying, own theirs too.
Absolutely.
So
Amen.
yeah, so God really showed me how it's not just about
I'm
Shondale.
so glad you said that.
Yeah, it's not
Because
just
people
about me.
need it.
Yeah,
People need it.
People have been reaching out to me, the stories, and not just of being in foster care, but people who lost their kids to foster care, people who are addicted to drugs and struggle with that. mental health, you know what I mean, teachers who've seen kids come through their system. So it's a collaboration of different voices of, you know, how did we get here? And I'm so proud of it. I'm proud. I'm working with Stephen Muhammad
Okay.
and Tiffany Countryman.
Okay.
So Tiffany came on, Tiffany Wood Countryman, she came on and she's my creative director. So I'm excited. I'm excited about what's going to come out from it and all the healing in the community.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what we need. Something
Yeah.
relatable.
Something relatable. And it's not scripted, it's just people talking and it's just telling their story. And I just want them to trauma dump through this. You know? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Because this is their talking and getting it out is therapeutic. That's
Yeah.
what I like about the podcast.
Yeah.
It's therapeutic. You
Yeah.
get to talk it through.
Right, and that's why I love this for you, because it's just, again, it's a platform where, you know, that's what we're here for. And, I mean, and that's my season that I'm in right now. It's like when people are like, oh, you need to go heal and maybe not talk about it, and I'm like, that's the thing. I have healed.
Yeah.
And God has shown me so much favor.
And sometimes you just gotta get it out.
You just got to get it out. You know what I mean?
You gotta get it out.
You know, and it was interesting because like my oldest brother and I never talked about the situation as far as, you know, how he was like trafficking me out when I was little. And we
Your own
finally,
brother?
we were finally able to have this conversation about 3 weeks ago.
That new?
Yep.
And
it was so,
if you don't mind, what was the outcome of the conversation? Did he show ownership? Was he apologetic? Was
He was apologetic.
empathetic? Was he all of the emotions that come with that?
yeah. And he had been trying to apologize for years. I just wasn't
ready.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to have that conversation with him because I just couldn't. I couldn't believe, first of all, that it was him. But when we had the conversation about 3 weeks ago, and he owned it, and he was a kid. You know what I mean? So it was things that was done to him that he
And
was
that's
just
what
repeating.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, he was
Hurt
just
people
repeating.
hurt people.
Yep, he was just repeating what was
What
done
he
to
saw.
him, and we were finally able to have that conversation and make amends with it. And so he was like, you know, He was like, I would like to talk about it on a docu-series if you're okay with that. And I was like,
Really? So he's that open.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah,
I mean, it's
Yeah.
great because now y'all can start.
we can start the healing.
Because y'all ain't started.
Yeah, and that was one of the things. Like I had so much anger in my heart for my brother. Like I didn't like being around him. I didn't want my girls around him, and I really couldn't understand
What's the
like
age
why.
difference?
So he's the second to the oldest, so it's like 9 years difference between us. You know
That's
what
a
I
big
mean?
difference.
Yeah, so like that's why I'm, you know what I mean. But today I'm just trying to like love my brother from a different space, and that's been hard because it's like I have to try to do that while healing at the same time.
Yes.
You know?
You have to stay
Yeah.
in prayer.
Yeah. Yes.
Constant. for that one.
Constantly. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
heavy.
Yeah.
How your girls feel about it? How does your girls feel about all that you have done?
My girls, like my
You know, 'cause
oldest
kids
daughter,
can be kind of crazy sometimes.
Man, listen,
It's like that
and my
some
girls are
accept
so
you
amazing.
and some of them be like,
Ooh, my
"She-
kids are so amazing.
That's good.
They are so amazing. Like my oldest one, she is an advocate in DC. She works. She's advocating against gun violence and domestic violence victims.
Okay.
So my daughter is at the White House. My daughter is really, she is just,
She doing her
Taria is
thing.
just doing her thing. And, you know, it was funny because like Derry, my second, you know, my second daughter, she was the one that was like always at the mustard seed. Like the girls was her sister. You know what I'm saying? Like she was
Right.
like, that's my nieces and nephews. So she was always at the mustard seed. Taria was the one that was like, Mom, I'm gonna stay home. Like, you know what I mean? But it's amazing how much both of them kind of took from that, and they are like just amazing, amazing young people. So Dariana stays in Tampa, and Taria
Okay.
stays in DC.
So do they come home often?
Yeah, they was home for Christmas, and I was so happy about that we were able to spend Christmas together.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah.
So really, you an empty nester,
Yep, empty
traveling
nester,
around,
traveling around.
making money,
Yes.
doing new things,
Yeah.
experiencing new things. Lastly, before we close out, you have to give my teenage my single mothers
Yeah.
a message, what would you tell a single mother? What advice would you give to my single mother community?
Wellness is so important for women. Like, especially as single mothers, we pour everything into our kids. We're, you know what I mean?
And we forget about ourselves.
That we forget about ourselves.
We neglect ourselves.
We really do. Like, and I hear people, single moms, say all the time, like, I'm gonna wait until my son graduates or until my daughter graduates, and I encourage them to
balance
like,
it now.
Yeah, you got to do it now.
You do.
And you owe it to yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you're so important that you have to be able to do self-care for yourself. And I don't care if it's just a walk. Like, go take a walk 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you know, do yoga, do meditation. There's so many things that you can do to connect yourself to the source. And, you know, I built an altar at my house, you know what I mean? And so everything to me is about, you know, I would really encourage women that are single parents to really put themselves first. And it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, we was taught like to put your kids first, but it's like, put yourself first for your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to say that part, though.
Yeah.
Put yourself first for your kids.
For your kids.
Because people will put themselves first.
Yeah, not
And
selfishly.
ain't thought nothing about the kids.
Yeah, no, not selfishly. And that's one of the problems that we're seeing today.
It's
is that parents
it's
are
selfish.
so selfishly raising
People
these
are
babies.
selfish.
And a lot of it, though, is they're so tapped out of themselves. Mental health is such a problem these days.
It is.
It's such a problem these days.
The hustle and the grind is a problem.
Yes, constantly being in the hustle mode and
always.
grinding all
day. You never
day.
get to relax.
Yeah, you don't never have enough. Prices, everything is going up.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm just like, you know, find your source and stay, you know, connected to that. It's so important.
Wellness.
Yeah,
That
like your
is a
kids
good
need
one.
you to be well.
They do.
Your
They
kids need you to be well.
I saw a meme the other day, and it wasn't a meme. It was a reel the other day, and it was on a podcast. And he asked her what was the most important thing in a household, and she said, and he said the father, and she said no. She said the mother's happiness.
The mother's happiness.
And I thought about it, and it resonated, and I was like, you're right. I said, because even for me, my kids have never seen me truly happy. They've seen me hustle, go with the flow, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But that genuine smile, they've yet to see.
And that's something, because that's really the reason why I started doing videos, was because especially, when my girls moved out of town. Both of them have been gone now for about 5 years. And it was funny because when I started to find my joy and I really started to find my happiness and peace, I wanted them to know that version of me. And I didn't want them to just, all of a sudden, I just wake up one day and I'm like, I'm just happy, just wellness lady. I'm riding around here on a scooter and having all this good time. Like, I wanted them to see the journey to that. Like, I need them to see that Shondale is transitioning, but I need them to see how. So I started talking in the camera just because I wanted my girls to know who I am. You know what I mean? Like,
Do you feel like that was beneficial for them?
I do. Like, me and my babies.
Because now they have a better understanding.
Oh my gosh, they call me. We talk about crystals. We talk about grounding. We talk about meditation. We talk, and my girls they're just amazing. They're amazing. And so, yeah.
Well, honey.
Yeah.
Is there anything left you want to share?
I want people to come and get their medical marijuana cards.
Okay.
But we also do consultation about the medicine. So they can come and, you know, you may not know what you need. You know what I mean? So you come to us and say, hey, I'm having problems struggling with sleep, or I'm having problems with pain in the evenings. I'm having night terrors, because some people have night terrors and,
PTSD.
you know, PTSD and stuff.
It's
So
real.
I work with a lot of veterans. So I may say, okay, well, you need indica. And again, it ain't about you smoking weed. Sometimes
Right.
it is just about you eating the gummy. You know what I mean? A 10 milligram, 5 milligram, and just going to sleep, resting. So I want people to come and talk to me about their medicine choices.
Okay.
And, you know, let me help. And then if they want to be able to be in the documentary, I am looking for individuals who might have been caseworkers or individuals who
Y'all
might have
hear
been in
this?
foster care.
She's looking.
Yeah. So it's going to be an 8-part docuseries.
That's what I was going to ask. How many parts?
It's going to be an 8-part docuseries. And so, again, I'm looking for people that may want to be in the docuseries. If they were in foster care, if they have a child in foster care, if they worked as a caseworker, if they were in the judicial system in any way, I want to hear their voice in this. Yeah.
Okay. So if they worked in a system, what you specifically looking for? Just-
Like caseworkers, juvenile justice, like if they worked the juvenile justice in the detention center or anything like that, they was a
So
caseworker
are you
there.
going to probe them? You have questions for them?
There will
Or
be
how
questions. There will be
Okay.
questions for each one of them. So when they come in, there will be like 3 or 4 questions that they'll have, and so, and again, but it'll be organic conversation. Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
need somebody that's going to tell the truth.
Yes. We need somebody gonna
You
tell
need
the
somebody
truth.
going to tell the truth.
Yeah, yeah.
So
yeah.
don't just be looking for her. If
Yeah.
you ain't going to tell the truth.
Yes, that part.
If children's service is going to be on your back, don't
Don't
come
do
see her.
it. Don't come see me. Listen.
Don't
listen.
come see me, Shondale.
Yes.
Lastly, we're going to toast up.
Yes.
We're going to have that shot of bourbon with Brandy.
Ah.
And as y'all see, I'm still here in the hub. Gym
Yes.
City sign in the back.
Mm.
Miss Shondale got her products. Y'all check her out. Oh, yeah, she's having a
Oh yes, girl, pub that.
She's having a 420 party. Where is
Yes,
that?
at
937. I know
937.
it's at 937. That's your spot.
Yes, yes, that's my spot.
That's your spot.
I love y'all 937 members only
Yes,
937.
yes. So she having a 420 party from
Yes.
7 to 11.
Yes.
She is. How many vendors you looking for? Or you already
we have 12 vendors that'll be there. It is
Okay.
going to be amazing. We will be showing the fight that night, the championship fight.
I will be there vending
Yes.
as well with my hair care products.
Yes.
So for the men, y'all come and get y'all hell of a beard.
Yes.
And for the lady, y'all come out and get y'all edge control and whatever else I'm offering. You can even come and get your kids some cream. But look forward to this lady. She is growing and going even more because she's already rooted in this community. So keep looking for great things coming from her. And y'all know I got good things coming up. Don't rule me out. But at any rate, thank y'all for tuning in.
Hey.
Shout out, man.
Shout out.
Yes. What you think about it? Everybody got a different opinion.
Strong.
Smooth. Okay. That's all I was waiting for. Okay. Thank y'all for tuning in. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you, honey.
You already.